This episode of the Gab Street Podcast is sponsored by Lamar Jr. and Michaela Thomas. Check out Lamar's new album, Junior, on all platforms. Michaela's new book, Stripped to My Truth, releases September 24th. Now on to the show. You're listening to the Gab Street Podcast, Columbus, Ohio's #1 podcast for underground talent. Every week we have new conversations with interesting individuals who contribute to the Columbus economy and its lively culture. You may find just what you're looking for right in your backyard. Let's get right into it.
Tell us about your childhood.
Which I have scheduled for this Friday. It's good.
Yeah.
Going back to therapy.
Are you?
Yeah. We can talk about it in the podcast.
Get in touch with your inner Dino.
I'm losing my inner Dino through all this. Yeah. So.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a little crazy. Anyway.
In what ways?
We'll see what we get into. Are we starting?
Sure.
We can always edit this out. We'll clean it up in post.
We'll come back to it. I know you have some sort of a plan, but we'll get into it.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode 83 of the Gab Street Podcast. Today we have Dino Tripodis and Jeff Gage. Dino is an actor, writer, comedian, podcast host, and radio personality.
No more radio personality. Do I have to take?
Well, no. But that was a significant portion of your career.
I know, but when you're done, when you're not doing it anymore, do you still keep it there as or do you have to put former? Is there a rule? Is there a law? Or just
I think once a voice, always a voice.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
I think you have to keep it as radio personality.
Okay.
You would be recognizable as. People don't say, "Hey, look, there's former radio personality Dino Tripodis."
Yeah,
that's Dino from Sunny 95.
Well, nobody would say, "Oh, there's radio personality Dino Tripodis."
Yeah,
Nobody would say that either.
Have a name tag.
They have to be really nerdy.
Yeah. Weren't you a radio personality?
Yes. Were you a radio personality? I'm on the spectrum.
Anyway, yes. Now go down Jeff's list.
Yeah.
And Jeff is
short.
An actor, comedian, improv performer, an instructor, and realtor.
And genius.
That's right. Super genius.
Creative genius.
That's right. I've been trying to catch a roadrunner for years now, and I'm this close.
If I had all the money that I spent at Acme, I'd be a rich man today.
Had I just invested in Amazon.
That's true. Acme seemed to get it there pretty quick.
They did. They were the Amazon of their day. Acme and they delivered out in the middle of the desert.
No, really doesn't matter. Wherever. And quickly.
Yeah, it was there.
Huh.
They mastered drone deliveries years before anyone else did.
That's funny.
Warner Brothers were way ahead of their time with those cartoons.
In what capacity have you two collaborated or are collaborating?
In what capacity? Jeff and I go,
jeez.
Way back.
80s.
I think my first, and correct me if I'm wrong, my first encounter with you and what later became, when you guys developed, was Comedy Sports. Was that right?
Oh, God, yeah, that's right.
Is that the first one?
Yeah. Well, even before that,
what was there?
I think when we were on the line with, remember Lisa Phillips?
Yeah.
At the old, it later became the Funny Bone, but it was like the comedy club.
Right. On the Lisa Phillips. That's
right. And so that was like, we were closing open mic, and you and Rathbone, there were Jack Thomas, there were a bunch of comics that we kind of looked up to you guys were a little bit ahead of us.
Well, right? Jack Thomas and John Rathbone, I can go back even further. They actually started way before me, but I hosted. We used to have a musical duo on campus.
That's right.
Doug and Dino.
Right.
And then I had the idea on an off night. I told Louis Mackus, why don't you have an open comedy night? where there's just amateur, and that's where John Rathbone and Jack Thomas first got up on stage. Maybe not first, but early on in their careers, got up there and did their shtick. And I just hosted. I didn't do any stand up. I had no inclination, no idea, no thought of doing stand up at that point. I just thought it was another way to pick up another $25-$30 as a host on a
that was big money back in those days. On a weeknight,
that type of thing, and get free drinks from Louis and then stepped into the stand-up waters a little bit later. But those guys were probably a good 1 or 2 years ahead of me.
Yeah, they were the first ones I knew from Columbus who started doing the road.
Right.
So everybody kind of looked up to them.
Right.
And didn't Rathbone and Eubanks have a comedy duo briefly?
I think they gave that a shot
for a hot minute. And Mark Eubanks was another one that
Eubanks was a funny son of a bitch.
Yeah, he took off.
He was. And then I just remember there was a comedy. I don't know if it was comedy. I don't know what it was. I remember a road trip to Milwaukee.
Yes, right. That was Comedy Sports.
That was Comedy Sports with some,
which still exists. There's a variation or entity of that going on. Well, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Right now at the Nest Theater, they're running that show.
And
which is a clean, friendly, improvisational comedy thing that's based loosely on a sports competition. Right. It originated out of Milwaukee. A guy named Dick Chudnow was one of the creators and who also was one of the creators of what did Chudnow start? It became Kentucky Fried Movie. They were Kentucky Fried Theater.
He was with the Zucker Boys.
The Zucker Boys. He was one of those guys. They were all from Wisconsin. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And
that was the guru we were going to go see.
That was the guy we went to go see in Milwaukee. Yeah. He was going to train us there, and we saw the Milwaukee show. That was Kenny Walker was went in there.
Right.
We were comprised of a lot of the young comedians at that time.
Michael Loftus was on that
trip. Robert, all those guys. Yeah.
Man, God.
Yeah.
Ancient history.
Yeah.
But to answer your question...
Right. We'll ramble on and just reminisce. Yeah. Is the podcast over?
Right. Yeah. Jeff we've collaborated on a few things over the years. Not enough, to be perfectly honest with you, as far as I'm concerned.
About a year ago, we were throwing around some ideas for a comedy script, just loosely with John Whitney, your partner,
right? And we're still
hashing those.
Those things out.
We had some great ideas, but nothing ever really germinated from those. But Dino is very ambitious and does. He's a creative, and I think you always want. You've always been a writer.
I know,
and you love film, so I think you've always wanted to.
Yeah, I still love
create your own
combining
films.
To do, and we have, and we continue. Whitney and I just did a short, a little 5-minute, because we were bored.
Oh right, I couldn't make it for that. Right.
That's right, and you were replaced by Ralph Scott.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were...
Ralph's very good.
And unless Ralph listens to this podcast, he has no idea that you were the first choice.
Oh.
But so...
Don't tell him.
No. But, he
Harm
did...
his fragile ego.
Yeah. He did a great job. And, Whitney had some extra equipment that he had to get back, so we just took advantage of it. And at my house and in keeping safe distancing in mind, we shot it so that we were, a full 6 to 8 feet apart. I was behind the bar and Ralphie was pacing up and down. But we shot this little short called Spitballing. Two guys just desperately trying to come up with an idea for something. They've got the writer's block, and they come up with a germ of an idea, and then it just continues to escalate and get more and more outrageous. What if? Kind of like an improv exercise. It just keeps going up till it gets totally, absolutely filthy. It is filthy. It is filthy, ridiculous, and then comes back down to the reality of where they're at. And it turned out really well. John Whitney does a wonderful job of shooting and editing. But it turned out pretty good. Pretty good. We're just trying to figure out what to do with it and where to put it next. So, but yes, I don't do nearly enough with him as far as I'm concerned. Every time I get an opportunity, like, hey, Jeff, can you do the podcast? Or hey, Jeff, can you do, when we were doing the premise down at the Shadow Box, any opportunity I get to use him, I will take advantage of. There's still like one more big thing still to do with you before it's. I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah,
but
I don't either.
It's going to be probably a film, and it's going to be just bigger and longer, because all I've gotten through the years are these short little doses.
Well, it seems like every time we work together, you have like a small part.
Right.
Right. The place where we live.
The street where we live.
The street where we live.
Yeah.
I had a short little part in that, and then bottom feeders. I was a cop.
Well, I had nothing to do with bottom feeders. But
you were just the star of that. But we were
star.
Yeah. Well, you were the main character. But
that film does.
Is it still?
It's still out there in the world to get, but it doesn't quite hold up in some areas. But it's still. It's not a bad movie.
No, it looked good.
Yeah, well, it was shot on film.
That's how old it is.
It was shot
back when we used to shoot stuff on actual film,
and it cost poor Tommy Baum a fortune. To shoot on film, and then it's like a year and a half later, the digital video format started to rise up, and people started shooting it that way. Like, oh my God, he could have shot this for a fraction of the cost.
Right.
But yeah, he shot on 16. And
the first few films we did.
We did Bullethead.
Bullethead was on. They shot on film, and it's like, you got to check the gate and be in the middle of a take, and the reel ran out. The only thing you worry about with shooting on video is the battery dies.
Yeah.
It's like, we got to do that. Take
check
again.
The gate.
Yeah.
Gate is good.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
I still don't even know what the gate is. I guess they shine a light in the camera.
I'm assuming that it's the the gate, and make sure there were any little pieces of anything that were maybe.
So you get the hair that shows up on a film.
Yeah. Check the gate.
How that got in there, I don't know.
But what I never understood, and this is because I'm not. That's not my wheelhouse. The technical part of it is like they always check the gate after. Wouldn't it make more sense to check the gate before you started shooting?
You know what? I never even thought about that.
I always wondered about that, but then I didn't want to be that one guy that asked like the stupid question, like, okay, yes, well, here's why, you idiot.
Yeah. But I that's had to have made life so much easier for cameramen.
Yeah.
It's like changing the reels of film on the camera and making sure everything didn't get exposed, and paying for the development. And they literally, I think when they cut, they could, because they could even on film, I remember they digitally cut it. Mm-hmm. They transferred it, and then they would edit on computers. But in the old days, they used to literally, in a booth, cut the film. Literally cut it. Yeah. Which is where that
There's
came
still a
from.
couple people
and piece it together.
That still like to work on film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tarantino loves it.
Yeah.
I know that.
He still likes to work.
Does he really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. They can. The thing is, with working on film, we're getting way off on a tangent.
It's all right. He knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, you can go. You can. Like they always say, also in shooting production, they can clean it up in post. They can add a rain cloud if they want to make it look like to match the lighting from a previous shot. They can digitally do that stuff now, which you couldn't on film.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of being, technically savvy, we've all had to become a little bit more of that lately.
That's true.
Because of this year, basically.
Yeah, I still need to get more savvy. Thank God I have. Yeah, you do this podcast all by your lonesome, right? You record it, you edit it, you release it, you push it, you do it all, right?
Yep.
Yeah. If I didn't have audio producer Whitney Hansberry and Whitney on the video side, there'd be no podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
hard to do by yourself unless you're a techie.
Yeah.
Unless
I'm not a
yeah,
techie.
yeah.
I'm not a techie.
And you had to do a few remote interviews for a while there.
And once again,
I did that too. It's rough.
not me. It's John Whitney. Putting everything on StreamYard. We didn't do Zoom. We did. We've gone with StreamYard. We did something else prior to that. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, the StreamYard feed, and it's Whitney and Hansberry sending it out to everybody, and all I do is talk and go from there. So yeah, hats off to those of you who are technically savvy. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not either. I send me the link. I'll click on it, and
I can do that.
I can have the capability of clicking on it and saying, "Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?"
Yeah,
And that's about it.
I can click. I can click.
But as far as setting it up and making sure everybody's on and all that other stuff.
But you're probably even a little bit better than me, because every once in a while there'll be like one of these things from Whitney. He'll say like, I'm clicking and nothing's working, and they'll tell me like, turn off your computer and start over, and I'm like, I'm afraid. I'm afraid if I turn off the computer, I'll never ever get
That's
back
right.
again. You mean actually turn it off, like completely off, like
reboot the whole
yeah,
thing?
like
Wow.
what are you? That whole don't press that button. Fear.
What else is? Have you ever done where my car's making a funny sound? Maybe I should just turn it off and turn it back on and fix it.
Right, exactly.
What else can you do? Just turning it off and on, and hey, everything's good now.
Good.
That's all I had to do was flip a button.
It needed a rest, apparently.
Yeah,
of some
exactly.
sort. Yeah, no, I hear you.
If I had a gas-powered computer, it would work that way.
What's that?
If I had a gas-powered computer, it would probably work that way.
Right, exactly.
My computer runs on diesel.
So we've had to learn a lot of lessons and skills in the past few months because of what's going on. But I have to ask both of you, what are some lessons and skills you've learned in your professional lives that really can't be taught by a teacher? What can only be learned by your experience?
Oh, gosh.
Jeez.
Excuse me.
In regards to
That's a smoker's cough, not a COVID
I was
cough.
going to say, you better not have the COVID.
That's a smoker's cough, not a COVID cough, sorry. And the water went down the wrong pipe. Go ahead, Jeff.
I think as a performer, as a live performer, the only thing that gets you comfortable in front of an audience is being in front of an audience. I don't think that's something you can teach. I think it's something some people just naturally have. They have an ease in front of people. Other people, you kind of get it as you go along. You kind of learn or kind of obtain this comfortableness in front of an audience, this vulnerability up there, because not everybody's born with that. Not everybody can learn it either. I think it's something that kind of clicks the more you do it. It's like anything. It's like riding a bike, but that's something that I don't think you can teach, like how to read an audience. It's an innate thing that comes from experience, I think. That would be the only thing I would think that, I'm sure there's other things.
I would echo that sentiment too. Going even back, like when we went to Milwaukee. I mean, this is a troupe of inherently funny people who went to Milwaukee to take lessons, or for lack of a better word, to learn how to improve. They're funny. Well, yeah, you can. There are some rules and lessons in improv but once again, it's up to that individual. I don't think you could take the average person on the street and say, here are the rules of improv. Now go be funny. There has to be something inherent inside that there's some sort of a gene in there of some sort. And it takes time. I mean, you hear stand-up comedians talk about it all the time, about how it took them years to find their voice on stage. I came across I found some cassette tapes. I was rummaging through my office trying to clean.
Like did you sell tapes?
I did sell cassette tapes, but I actually would record
Oh, okay.
Old sets
Right,
on
sure.
cassette, you know,
Right.
and micro cassette, and well, I stepped up to micro cassette, but
Right, yeah.
and I also found tapes of me rehearsing, you know, try to do jokes at home. And I was laughing my ass off. I go, who the hell is this? Because first of all, my voice was like a good octave higher.
Yeah, right.
All the whiskey and cigarettes of the years have definitely lowered it to the timbre that it is. But then it's like I was listening to those early, and I wasn't me. I was unconsciously emulating what I thought a stand-up comedian should sound like. You know,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't know who I was borrowing from at the time, but in my head, a stand-up comedian sounds like this, you know, and then you know, and it was actually very funny and sad at the same time.
Yeah, right. It's because you can't believe how.
Yeah.
Why was I trying to sound like Seinfeld?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Trying to go for more of an Andrew Dice Clay or a Louis C.K.
or something. Yeah. I mean, you find your own. You find your own place.
Well, I think you see that in music too.
Sure.
More prominent, where people try to emulate whatever sound is popular at the time, and that's been going on for quite some time.
Well, forever.
Yeah. But you really see it now. Like, you can't have a pop song now that doesn't feature some rapper, right? That raps in the middle of it.
Mix.
Right, because somebody did it and it was successful, and now everybody's got to have that in their song, you know, or it's not going to be relevant.
And then you hear people like saying, you know, they do stuff that's, you know, they had a Beatles influence, and then you go back to the Beatles though, but the Beatles had an influence from 50s
Little Richard,
rock and roll
that
they you know, everybody
steals from somebody.
Borrows or you know, whatever makes an impression on you.
Right.
Down the line. Yeah.
Highest form of flattery.
Yeah,
that's
true.
It is.
Is there a point in time for both of you where you felt like you kind of emerged into your own voice that is identifiable, or was it more of just a long-term process?
A little bit of both for me.
Yeah.
You know, when I think of Jeff Gage, I hear a voice in my head, and I know that he's quick-witted, and I know I am familiar and comfortable with his delivery on things, and I hear his voice. So I would say, you know, I'm not speaking for him, but I know that he's got a voice that I know, enjoy. And when I'm thinking of like, oh, got to get Jeff Gage for this, I'm hearing his voice. I know he's quick. I know he's spontaneous, and I know he's got the timing and the delivery. You know, he's quick, and then when he delivers something, it just does it in such a magical way. Whether it's in the moment, self-deprecating. Which I love self-deprecation.
Yeah.
I love.
It's easy to do when you're me.
But you know, to be able to laugh at yourself and then make other people laugh in the process of it. So, yeah, I think that voice comes, but that voice wasn't always there, and my voice wasn't always here. It develops, and you find it all of a sudden. You find that comfortable stride. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's. That's a more crucial element for the stand-up.
Right.
And I dabbled in stand-up. I never considered myself a stand-up. Just from working in stand-up clubs and with a bunch of stand-ups, I was like, especially with open mics, you see people go up, and this is really what inspired me to even do stand-up, is like, I would see people and go, well, shit, I'm funnier than that. You know? So I tried stand-up, and I realized I could do it, but it wasn't my passion. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I loved scene work. I loved sketch. I loved doing characters. I loved the fact that in one show I could be the president, a cowboy, an astronaut, a caveman. You know, I could be all these different things within one show, which you can do in stand-up too, if you craft it correctly. I was never a monologist. I didn't want to just do a monologue. Plus, I always liked the ability of if you didn't have something, going, take it away. And somebody else on stage to like pass the ball to,
so
you know, so that there was a comfort that came with that. And some people, a lot of stand-ups aren't comfortable with that, giving stage to somebody because they want the spotlight on them. Right. So it's a matter of your comfort level, you know, and learning to trust that, you know.
You hosted my roast.
I did, yes. Yeah.
He was a great host.
That was the first one I remember anybody even doing.
What, roast?
Your roast, in Columbus.
Well, that was...
Now they have a roast, or not now because of COVID,
right.
but you'd have 3 or 4 a year, you know.
My 50th birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, God, awesome. 11 years ago. God, that's
11, it seemed like 30.
Feels like 30.
No, it seemed like it was just last year.
But our buddy Paul Anthony put that together.
Yeah.
And Jeff Gage was the host, and he was an amazing host. And once again, you talk about a character. He embodied. He was Jeff, but he was like this. He was this host, this character. You were very funny.
Oh, thanks,
man. You were the perfect host for that.
It was easy because I didn't have to roast. I only had to write a few jokes for each person on the dais. And it was here you go.
And you didn't have to write jokes. All you had to just tell the truth.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I did get to lambaste a few people, you know. And of course you can hurt people. Like I was never like...
oh, come on, hurt people.
Yeah, I know. It's a roast.
It's a roast.
Lighten up. But... there's a little bit of truth between some of those insults, you know. But it's all in good humor.
I've been lucky enough to see you host a few improv shows from the improv class and such.
Yeah.
What are some things that through teaching that class you've learned yourself that you didn't know before about improv?
Ooh, good question.
That don't try to be funny. That, you know, because when I did improv, and we worked in comedy clubs, the group that I worked with, and we were comprised mostly of stand-ups. There were only a couple of us who were not stand-ups. And we actually put a rule in place of laughs per minute. We have to go for the laugh. We're in a comedy club. They're expecting funny. They're not, not that... And we put that on ourselves. I think we could have done something maybe socially significant or something that maybe would have touched somebody and made them think, about just life and relationships. You don't have, just because it's a comedy club, you don't have to, there should be some humor involved, but you can also be poignant. But we weren't. we went straight for the dick joke. And because we felt we had to. And now, as from teaching the class, I realized the honesty. Show me a relationship. If it's honest, the audience is going to identify with it. All improv is we're just like I say in the classes, we're just holding a mirror up to society, saying, "Look, this is what we look like as human beings." That's why people will find the humor in it. And I think a lot of stand-up, observational comedies like that, or even like if you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, I think they use a lot of improvisation in that. He's looking for honest moments, just people in the moment having an honest reaction to the situation, that it's going to be absurd. You don't need to go for absurd right off the jump.
It'll get there.
It's going to be weird.
Do you like teaching?
I do. Yeah.
Did you wake up and say, I think I want to start teaching improv classes, or hey, will you teach an improv class?
Well,
did you choose to do it, or were you asked?
I was asked to do it initially, which is what got me into it. I was kind of out of comedy at that point because we split up and people moved, all across the country, and we would do the occasional corporate thing or whatever. But it was all performance based, and then somebody got my number and reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want to teach an improv class?" And I was like, "We have a group that we just need to coach," and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." They were going to throw me, $50 or whatever. It's like, "Yeah, I can come do that." And I realized when I started doing that, being around that creativity, that energy, I was like, man, I miss this. This is a thing in my life that I miss. Like I always say, some people paint, some people play guitar, some people write, whatever your creative muse is. That was something that was lacking in my life, and I realized that's what it was this improvisation thing, and I had something to give that these guys didn't have, that I could just kind of impart to them. Well, so it was fulfilling in that sense. So then I started going, well, I had a relationship with the Funny Bones, so it's like, hey Dave, can I teach improv classes? And it started out like I was just going to do one a year. And then people were like, well, what's the next class? There is no next class. I did an introduction to improv, and they're like, well, this is it? I'm like, well, no, there's more. So then I created the advanced class, and then I started doing like 3 and 4, and then it got up to 6 classes a year. I was like, wow, it's really become a little side gig. So, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoy watching people create, and I know to teach them not, even though it's going to be funny, not to be funny. Just be in the moment. Just be yourself and trust that it's going to be funny.
Gab Street is sponsored for episode 83 by Lamar Jr. of Eclectic Styles and his new album, Junior. He doesn't ask for too much of your time. This 12-track, autobiographical 30-minute long album is a dynamic, jazz-influenced hip-hop experience. You can find Junior on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, and YouTube. Here's a sample of the album.
Trying to bring back when people had beats and rhymes. Not a vegan cause I eat goat all the time. Go against me, it's like fighting Ali in his prime. Cause I'm always on my grind, never ever on that so-slow. Fighting MCs, it's to me just a no-no. Back bend, dodging all these bullets in slow-mo. Neo, I'm the one, so you know you need a photo. Promo is always at the front of my mind. Getting green like I'm squeezing juice out of a lime. Major key alert, got me screaming like Khaled. Only one here, like I'm on a deserted island. You'll be Dr. Seuss with the way you be rhyming. Bedtime story, go to bed and be quiet. And stop your crying.
You can find him by searching Lamar Jr. on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, and YouTube, or by clicking the link in the description of this episode. Gab Street is sponsored by author and certified life coach Michaela L. Thomas. Her new book, Stripped to My Truth, releases on September 24th of this year. The premise of this book resonates with me as someone on the path to becoming a social worker. This kind of open communication about the trials and tribulations some go through from an early age is important for people to hear who may have similar experiences themselves. Straight from her, here's a description of what you can expect from the book from her website. What would you say if I told you I was emotionally, mentally, and physically abused once upon a time? What would you say if I told you that I twice lost a child? Once at 15, and then again at 17 years old. How would you feel if I said my innocence was stolen from me by someone I trusted? Here I stand, from child to adulthood, encountering what seemed to be heartbreak after heartbreak, not realizing that I was cutting and bleeding all over myself. Why? Because hurt people hurt people. It took some dark valleys and long roads for me to travel through before it finally clicked to tap into my intentional healing. Loss of life, trauma, homelessness, and the list goes on. It wasn't until I began taking a really good look in the mirror and really sitting in my mess that I understood what was actually happening. Every light that casts a shadow never stays lit. Every character that plays their role will eventually fade. There's no amount of self-help books, audio, or videos that can or will change your life. At least not without your key star player, you. To truly disengage from every shackle that locks you into complacency and stagnance, and each hurricane of emotional turmoil that covers you, you must strip down to your bare naked truth. You can find that description of Michaela's upcoming book, Stripped to My Truth, on michaelalthomas.com. That's MICAELAL Thomas.com. Stripped to My Truth will be available for purchase on September 24th, 2020. On her site, she has a personal bio, which I will read for you now. Michaela L. Thomas is a wife and mother, co-captain of a large blended family. She parents 6 biological children, 4 stepchildren, and 1 bonus child with husband Kendrick. Born in March 1987, she grew up in East Cleveland, Ohio, to a single mother and loving family village. Michaela has always had a knack for writing. Whether it was poetry, plays, songs, books, or short stories, she was always able to utilize her imagination to keep her centered from the internal turmoil that brewed within. Eventually relocating to Columbus, Ohio, this is where she began discovering her various talents. The story of Michaela's life has been kept secret for the majority of her 33 years of existence. She has now decided to share her journey for the encouragement and betterment of others who may be suffering in silence. It is her hope to assist in being an advocate for the intentional healing of others through her own journey of self-awareness and manifestation. Now back to the show. I remember the first moment that I kind of internalized that idea of don't try to be funny was back when I took the class. Back when I took the class when I was 14 years old.
That's right.
So that was
one of my youngest students.
Yep. We had, I think we were doing Translator, if that's the name of the game.
It's just following each other.
Or Interpreter.
Interpreting, yeah.
The 2 people on either side trying to talk to each other, the interpreter in the middle.
Right.
We're doing gibberish on either side. And I think one person pointed to the other person's shoe and just made some noise. And the interpreter was like, "What's wrong with your foot?" Like, it was just a very natural moment that wasn't forced. He was like, "That's what I saw. That's what I said."
Right.
That's how I interpreted this moment. And it was probably the funniest thing to come out of that.
Right. Yeah, and it wasn't a joke. It wasn't a set-up punchline. It was just the audience laughs at honest. Sometimes it's just a take, just the way somebody looks at somebody. One of the funniest things I ever saw was some lady was trying to be funny, and the scene was just like a librarian. Like you're in a library, and this lady came in and she's like being all goofy, just going. I think she was trying to be funny, but the funny line came from the librarian who was just like. Oh, are you all right? She was just honestly concerned that this person was off her meds. And that got the biggest laugh, not the person who was being outlandish, because she just looked like a insane homeless person who stumbled into the library, But, so, again, it's sometimes funny is just the natural human behavior, because that's what we all are, right? We're just humans, And that's all comedy is. You're trying to, there's comedy classes like how to write a joke, and because it's all about the turn or sketch comedy.
Still don't know how to write a joke.
What?
Still don't know how to write a joke.
Well, you were always a storyteller.
Yeah.
And again, I think that goes to finding your voice, right? You find what works for you, what connects with the audience for you.
I don't know. Let me ask you this. If we were on stage tomorrow, you in an improv capacity and me in a stand-up venue, I've thought about this. Like, I haven't been on stage since the last time I was on stage was when we did the premise down at Shadowbox. I've been in front of the microphone, obviously with the podcast, but as far as performing in front of an audience, I don't know what the hell I would talk about on stage right now. I would feel, for lack of a better word, a responsibility to be current and with everything that's going on in the world, but at the same time, there's a part of me like, aren't people sick of it? But as even from a comedic perspective, would they? Oh, he's going to tell COVID jokes, or he's going to,
Well, and again, how do you avoid the elephant in the room?
Right.
It's like we're all affected.
So you go on improv stage, and I need an idea for the hand sanitizer.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of those suggestions are going to be, just the whole way we do that business now. And like, I'm still right now at the time we're recording this trying to figure out. I just had an email this morning from a student who wants to know when are we starting classes again. And the answer is, I don't know.
Right.
The Funny Bone is still in flux. I know they're booking shows in anticipation of these things, but they could be shut down at any minute.
Right.
And they haven't started yet. So, and at what capacity, how far is the audience going to be away from the stage?
Well, the Funny Bone actually is doing shows with comedians now, but they've got the whole, you have to have your temperature checked before you go in.
Oh, okay.
No more than 4 at a table, and those tables are 6 feet apart, so there's no big, there's, the Funny Bone holds, 325?
That's 400. Well, but they're only doing 100.
They can only do a portion of that capacity. Right. So I mean, Jesus. And I don't, and I'll be perfectly honest. There's a part of me that's just almost a little intimidated by the fact of going into a
gathering that many people.
Not so much the people. Like like you go to the Funny Bone and you go on any given night. There's even on a slow night, there's 200 people there.
Right.
I'm a little I don't know what the word. I'm just I'm slightly intimidated to go in front of a smaller group that's maybe just as tentative being there as anybody. I don't know.
But here's the thing, and it's always been this way with comedy. People are there to get away from whatever it is.
Right.
So I see your point about, do you talk about it? Because they're there to forget about it as well.
Right.
That's why they got out of the house. They're going stir crazy. They want to get away and just laugh and not have to think about what's going on in the world right now.
So the only thing I could, when I'm home making notes, we're still making notes, I'm thinking like, well, maybe I don't talk about, but maybe where the funny comes from is what direction your life has gone since all this happened.
Right.
Right? Maybe I spent 5 weeks with my mom in Florida when she fractured her hip, but it was, I was going into the epicenter of COVID by going to Florida,
Yeah, right.
I drove down instead of flying. I went through, we ain't wearing no masks in Georgia,
right.
tentatively and picked and very carefully picked and choose where I'd go to stop to pee and get a sandwich. So maybe you talk about those things and the observations you see so much about the actual, statement. I don't know.
It's almost hard to avoid it,
It is.
It's part of our lives now. And it seems like it's going to be going forward, like the way we do things, the way we interact.
I don't like it.
Just, I don't either. It's like I was just talking to one of my clients yesterday because I sell real estate, and I had Jeff Gage with Keller Williams Greater Columbus, by the way. I got to let people know that I sell real estate. But anyways, she goes, I can't go to a showing tomorrow. I have a funeral. And I go, oh, wow, that's got to be difficult to go and just wave at somebody, because when you console somebody, naturally you hug them, right?
Right.
And when they're grieving, and when you have to maintain 6 feet, it's
right.
like, how do you? I guess you pay your respects by just showing up,
right.
wearing a mask, and wave at them and go, hey, sorry, blow them a kiss or whatever it is. But geez, just that human interaction, There's been a lot of talk about, kids too. I feel bad for the kids today who can't go to school and be around their friends and, interact with other kids.
Right.
I mean, that's just such a crucial part of growing up. It's, how you socially identify. And
my cousin's a freshman at Ohio State this year. He's a transplant from Long Island, he's doing fine, but he gets no football season. He's got no spring break. He's got it's like, okay, you came to one of the greatest universities in the world,
Yeah, they're gonna start suspending kids for having parties. If they, it's crazy. Yeah, it's different. It's a different college experience.
It is.
Yeah.
I asked a guest of mine on the podcast. I said, he was bitching and talking about how stupid some of the kids have been on campus with their,
and they have been.
And I said, but put yourself back when you were at school, and you're 18, you're 19 years old. I said, would you have worn a mask? Absolutely, I would have worn a mask. I went, come on, would you have worn a mask? Would you have followed all the protocols? Or would you, at 18, 19 years of age, call it stupid or not, just had that, I'm invincible. I'm invincible.
Yeah,
nothing's going to happen to me. And not have the mindset where, okay, well, maybe I'm invincible, but I might be infecting somebody else. No, you weren't thinking any of that stuff back then.
No.
I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's an excuse or an out. Everybody needs to be more diligent and vigilant about everything. But I said, I don't know how 18-year-old, 19-year-old Dino would have been back then. I don't know.
Yeah.
Given how crazy things were in the
back.
in the late 70s, he said, looking at the microphone at Ohio State University, where we used to go to bars and they would serve the beer. Oh my God! Can you imagine? In a bucket, in an actual bucket. They would take plastic pails where people use for mopping and fill it up with beer.
Yeah.
And then people, when they were done with that bucket, would pee in those buckets. And they would take the pee buckets and they'd rinse them out and wash them out and fill them back up with beer. Oh my God. Can you imagine if that was happening right now? A bucket of beer?
Yeah. No, I can't. That's
where people are dipping in there with their cups and just the cup in there and scooping it out, ladling it out.
Do you remember the smell of that? That was Papa Joe's.
Yes, right? Papa Joe's in Northburg.
Do you remember the smell? Just walking in the place, it just and your feet would stick to the ground. Floor.
Yeah,
just the sticky beer. And
yet there was something comforting about it.
There was. It was like you wanted to be there.
You wanted to be there.
You wanted to be in the smelly, sticky beer. People would dump buckets of beer from the balcony down on top of other people. Oh God. Yeah.
This sticky pee might be mine from the night before. I don't know. Yeah, can you imagine?
It was just disgusting and glorious.
People they'd be abhorred. Oh my God! He just stuck a plastic cup into a bucket of beer, and they're all drinking out of it.
Well, now everybody's like, "Oh, he breathed on the empty bucket." Like now, that's the problem.
Exactly.
That's where we've come.
Well, yeah, I kind of freak out when I see people, and even in outdoor, like I don't know why my mind goes to this, like I'm some kind of inspector for the state of Ohio. But I see people sitting in cafes or patios, and I'm like, those tables look too close together.
Right.
They're not. None of those people are wearing masks. How could they while they're eating? But how can you eat with a mask on? But still, I just look at it and it just looks absurd to me now.
I saw two people shake hands the other day, and I was like, it caught me off guard.
I was driving through downtown last night, and I saw like 4 kids get out of an Uber right in the short north, and I was like, oh my God.
With no masks?
No masks.
No masks.
Yeah.
And get 4 kids getting out of an Uber with a mask, okay.
Yeah.
All right, but no mask? Yeah.
But even just with a mask, 4 kids in an Uber, it's like, I'm like, oh God, that's just an outbreak waiting to happen.
That's before COVID, that was a problem.
Yeah, right.
It's like, 4 kids.
Yeah. And I'm saying kids, they were probably 30, but still, it's, I don't know. It's just, and maybe it's because we're starting to get to that age.
Maybe,
where we're the vulnerable demographic.
Maybe, but it has not escaped me how it's becoming, and this is maybe a good thing under the circumstances where it's ingrained in my head, where I feel bad, I feel awkward when someone still unconsciously, hey buddy, reaches out to shake my hand, and I went and I go,
I've been that person too.
You're in a people business,
right? So you go to meet a client, it's like hey, how are you? You know, I catch myself. It's just like a natural instinct that you've been ingrained with for years. You know, the whole shaking of the hands when you greet someone. And they used to put, especially our generation or older, put a lot of weight behind it. You know, you were taught to give a firm handshake.
Sure.
Okay, you know, don't give them the dead fish.
Right.
Right. So your handshake meant something.
It did. It was part of the first impression.
Right. It's gone the way of tap dance. It's a dead language like Esperanza.
Crazy, man.
It's not even going to be. That's the thing that scares me about doing the improv stuff, because a lot of what I teach now is more relationship. How do you know? And some of the exercises that I teach is basically, can you show a relationship through touch? Like, how do friends touch each other differently than, say, a mother and a daughter do? You know, and can we as an audience see that from just how? And I can't even do that particular exercise because of this.
Yeah.
But that is just, again, human connection, and I think this is going to have a profound effect on that, on how we connect as humans to one another, and we're already kind of seeing that disintegrate just from a political landscape of, you know, how we connect with one another and to immediately dismiss one another. The recognition of racial problems and everything. We're not connecting as human beings.
It scares me because you know, prior to all of this, I had said it before, and this is I'm talking about 3 and 4 years ago on the radio, and I've said this on podcasts too. I mean, this is not helping the already in place disintegration of empathy that the world has. You know, when I was on the radio and when I started to notice that the mass shootings would occur, and with each mass shooting that came, it seemed like
desensitization.
Yeah, and if it wasn't. And when I say a mass shooting, if it wasn't more than 20 dead, if there was like a shooting at a shopping center where there was 8 people that made the news,
slow news day.
Yeah, 8, as opposed to 80. So this situation that we're in now just continues to reduce the amount of empathy, and yet at the same time inflames other things.
Well, we've noticed murder rates go up, so I wonder if people are just this separation has created more angst and lack of empathy.
Well, does that include coughing on other people? Is that counted as murder?
That's just to me that's an assault. You know,
when you
do it on purpose.
When you do it on purpose, if you know you're sick and you maybe.
Well, even if you don't, there's an implied, like, there's been videos of like people in stores and they say you need to put a mask on, and I saw a lady cough on a little kid. I'm like, you know what? Punch her in the face. She assaulted you. You're just retaliating. That's crazy. Not that I advocate punching people in the face, but I mean that's an assault. That's like it's spitting on somebody when you know you have AIDS, or it's assault. So whether she is COVID positive or not, or the person doing that is,
you're right.
It's the implied, right? The not knowing. I don't know, but
in times like this of stress and uncertainty,
yes, for
both of you, what's kind of a go-to? What's something that you always can turn to? What's a reliable source of comfort and control?
Solitude.
Whiskey.
Whiskey. Easy one for the guy that has the Whiskey Business podcast.
Sidebar question.
Sure.
When we had the stay-at-home order, some of my friends were freaking out. I apparently was made for solitude. It didn't affect me as much. What started to affect me was not so much the solitude, but how it started to play with my head emotionally and creatively, and that's what bummed me out. But solitude-wise, in the beginning with the stay-at-home, my drinking did increase. I think, and that's
I think that happened with a lot
of
folks,
people.
Yeah.
My smoking definitely increased. Was smoking and drinking more. But the solitude, I found my front porch became this, for lack of a better word, safe place or comforting place where I could just sit. It was outside, and it's comfortable, and that's.
Yeah, I do. I had my wife and our daughter and my grandkids came and stayed with us when we locked down because we didn't know, what was going to happen, and we stocked up like doomsday preppers, and had, a bunch of groceries, and so we cooked, and I bought a bunch of wine, and so we drank a lot initially, treated it as though we were, on a vacation in a cabin in the woods or something.
Right.
And I realized I let my real estate, I kind of stopped working, even though I didn't have to. But I thought, I can't do anything. I had this mindset that, I knew I wasn't doing improv classes. I had to cancel those, so I, just put everything on hold. I stopped marketing that. I stopped doing everything, and just and then I realized that I got to get back to doing stuff. And when I did that, I stopped drinking, not completely, but honestly, I had drank last weekend. I haven't drank that much in the past. I've only drank once in the past 3-4 weeks.
It's interesting.
And I still go out. I'm still conscious of everything. I keep hand sanitizer and mask and
have that in the car.
Everything. But and I don't go out as much. I still haven't eaten in a restaurant since the whole thing. I refuse to do that. I have had things ordered and picked up or delivered, but I'm still not comfortable with those kinds of social settings. But
they'll come.
It'll come. Hopefully soon.
I've noticed that my resistance to that is lessening as time goes on. It's when people would come to my house, it was just a small circle, people that I knew were safe in the beginning, and even then, we're going to sit outside and safe distance.
Right.
And I noticed that I'd be becoming a tad more lax, still keeping things in mind, the safe distancing, but before it was like, I know where you've been, I know where you've been, I know where you've been, and I know what you've been doing and what you've been doing, check, you're okay.
Right.
You buddy, I don't know, you don't seem to be taking this very seriously, and because you're not taking it very seriously, because you vocalized to me like, oh, it's bullshit, this, the other thing, you ain't coming over.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. You're a buddy, you're a friend. We differ in our opinions until we're on the same page. See ya.
That's one thing I don't understand, are the people who still are deniers, or to think that it's some kind of hoax.
Yeah.
And to what end? Really? You think the entire world is this gung ho about making sure Trump doesn't get reelected?
Yeah.
That they all conspired, to kill this many people.
It's actually some pretty good faith in humanity to think we can all work together.
Yeah,
like that.
right. That's the one thing we can all agree on. Wow, really? Yeah, I don't get it, and I don't get the whole just denying that it's a hoax. And I'm not wearing a mask because the Constitution says I don't have to. I don't remember anything like that in the Constitution, or how this is an infringement on your. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. The debate, and I had some of those debates down in Florida with people, and
oh, it's in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
There's one friend of my brother-in-law's who was, just 180 from my thought process. And I just, at one point, I just smiled and said, "We don't agree. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something else entirely, because otherwise this conversation is going to get ugly." So sometimes I just like, enough.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's like talking to a wall.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've done that too, where you just have to unplug and
you
disengage.
just make up your own mind. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not here to change your mind. I don't
Right.
have the energy to change your mind. Maybe I should. Maybe that's. But you know, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Just, you know, I'm not going to chastise you anymore for not wearing a mask. You don't want to wear a mask, that's fine. But at the same time, don't tell me that you're an idiot for wearing a mask either.
Right.
So keep it
Yeah.
the same way. No.
I have a bit of an unrelated question for you guys.
Okay.
As we are all entertainers in this room, this is something I've always been curious about, especially with podcasters. Have you had anyone, because they have listened to your voice so much, act as if they've already formed a relationship with you before you've even spoken to them?
Oh, I'm sure Dino's had that
Yeah.
happen numerous times.
Yeah. 24 years in radio, yeah, people feel like they know you. And that's not unfair, because in those 24 years, I wasn't a character on the radio. Mm-hmm. I was pretty much me, and, you know, would say whatever I was thinking to a certain degree. There were lines that you couldn't cross for obvious reasons, and I knew what station I was working at, and I kept it in that family zone. But there are people that that's on the podcast. Every once in a while there'd be like, you know, you're easy to talk to because I feel like I already know you, that type of thing. Yeah, that's happened before, but not excessively so. No.
Okay, cool. I've just always been curious about that personally.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And that's never happened to me. So you know what I used to get though, which was strange. Like even when I was younger at Ohio State, people would come up to me, and I don't know if I just have a generic face or what, but they go, "Hey, did you go to high school at? Are you from so and so? Or are you from?" I had this happen to me probably no less than 20 times. Different random people coming up. "Hey, aren't you from somewhere?" And I'm like, "Nope."
Are you saying you're every guy?
I guess. I have a face that looks like somebody else that's from other cities. You know, I guess everybody has a doppelganger. But,
Yeah,
you know,
but you didn't think you'd have dozens of them.
Dozens of them. Yeah.
Hey, he's not the man or the guy behind the man, but he does know his cousin.
Oh my God! That's I forgot about that. I go, that sounds familiar. That's my Twitter thing. I'm not the man or the man behind the man, but I do know his cousin. That's funny.
Well, before we wrap up here, is there anything as entertainers that either of you wish that you had known from the beginning that you know now?
Good question.
Yeah, that Apple and Amazon stock was going to skyrocket.
Yeah, right. And that you hadn't put everything into Acme.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that! Callback. Full
circle. Boom. Shut up. We're out of here. Thank you. Good night. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Not that mic, because that's a nice one. You
It's
don't
a
want to
really
drop
nice
that.
mic. Yeah. Don't drop it. Oh man. Say it again. Say the question again.
So, as entertainers,
Yeah.
specifically, are there any things that either of you wish you had known from the beginning of your careers that you now know?
From the beginning of the careers that I now know. I've never been a naive person, so I can't say that, I trust in people. I've always been able to, not always, but most of the time been able to sniff out the bullshit.
Yeah.
And the
Was that
liars
tough?
and
It
the
was
cheats.
probably tougher when you were in LA, though, because
Yeah.
everybody's so full of shit out there.
Yeah.
What does being an entertainer mean to you?
There are things. Being an entertainer to me covers a lot of bases because, as we discussed before, there's a variety of ways for us to entertain. We can make film and entertain people that way. We can do a podcast and entertain people that way. We can do our stand-up and our improv and entertain people that way. We can write something and people will read it and entertain them that way. So I guess what it means to me is just to constantly be putting something out there that people enjoy, that people will think about. Lately, and it's been more during COVID, I've taken a shot at some form of poetry.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've never done that before. And I think the reason I've gravitated towards it is because it's a shorter form, and I have these immediate thoughts, and I've been emotionally exhausted. We're like, I don't want to write a short story. I don't want to, So I put it in this form and still get it out. So I think anything that has a positive effect with people, or makes them think, or makes them laugh, that's what entertaining means to me. And we discussed this before the podcast a little bit. It's only been lately here that I've been my own worst critic and my own worst enemy, and like everything I try to write is crap, and I just
really?
yeah. Well, I've always been that way to some
Yeah,
level,
I was gonna say,
but more so to this point. Like I start to doubt. I've started to doubt what the hell am I doing? Where am I going? What's going on? I can't work in front of people. There's no audiences to work in front of right now. I've had some creative dilemmas that I'm coming out with them. Like I said, we shot this little short film just a couple Sundays ago. That helped.
Yeah.
That helped that was like when you said when people contacted you about improv and you got back into it and you realized how much you missed it.
Yeah.
And it was like a little dose of something like, okay, yeah, this is what we do. Yeah, this is what we do.
Yeah.
We get in front of a camera, we make some funny things happen. All right, yeah, okay, let's go. Somebody get me a typewriter. That's right, a typewriter.
You still use a typewriter?
I still put rough drafts on a typewriter. Initial thoughts on a typewriter.
And then you transpose it to
and then I don't. Then I don't
scan it.
I don't scan it. No, I actually type it back into the computer. Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
You just like laborious.
Yes, I just like to take as long as freaking possible.
When you do that, do you touch up besides
Yes.
like maybe a grammatical error or something?
I don't worry about corrections on the typewriter. The typewriter is just actually the pure raw
spewing out of
thought. Yeah. So.
Well, that's no distractions too. I mean, you could have a notification pop up on the compuder, but on a typewriter you're going to hear a ding and then.
And I like the
message.
ding, and I like the sounds of. There's something appealing to me about that, and the fact that it just takes a little more time to think about a word or so forth and so on.
And getting it onto the computer afterward helps keep it in your head better.
Yeah.
It's all rehearsal.
So when you say you were doubting yourself, is this like earlier you mentioned something about everything I write it sucks, and you were going through this kind of self-doubt. Is that like, do you think maybe that it's just paralysis by over-analysis? You're like looking at it and going, that's not exactly what I'm trying to. Because I do that even on Twitter. It's like, I'm going to reply to that, and I immediately think of something funny, type it, and then go, no, wait, for this to be funnier, I need to rephrase this, and it's like, no, I should have just gone with my first instinct and send it. But you start over-analyzing and start thinking, well, maybe, no, now it's too long. It was better when it was shorter. It would have been funnier. It's like writing a joke where you try to craft it so well. Sometimes it's just quicker to the punch. Maybe that's why I like improv better. It's maybe like you're not overthinking it. You don't have time to.
You don't have to. You're in, you're out, you're in the moment. Yeah.
But like to back to your original question, like I think just to touch on what Dino said, creating, just that is what makes us who we are, right? And that's how we connect to others. Whether it's paint, poetry,
do you
music.
Paint? Have you ever painted?
I tried. I'm not very good at it, but it is a very cathartic though. It's an outlet. Same with sculpture, like working with clay and stuff. Just creating something. And whether somebody else likes it or enjoys it, sometimes it's just that getting it out of you. It's a release. It's letting something. It's cathartic.
It is cathartic,
and in the sense that it just liberates you, and you hope somebody else appreciates it. And I think that's the way, all art is meant to touch somebody in some way, make them feel.
Yeah.
Right.
How old are you now?
58.
58.
Yeah.
And I'm 61. How old are you?
20.
20.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
See, that's why he's milking us for stuff. Like, hey, what can I avoid? What are the pitfalls that you guys experienced?
And I think that's part of it with COVID and where we are right now too.
Yeah.
With the fact that it's limited so much, and it's taken away some of the things that we need as performers, venues, people, et cetera, et cetera. And then sometimes I think maybe that's messing with me a little bit too. Like, okay, clock's ticking here, and I really don't need any more obstacles in my way in order to put together what I jokingly, or probably not jokingly, seriously call. I still have one more chapter in my creative life left to do. Why is there still one more thing out there that I don't know what it is per se, but one more thing I need to round it out. And I think that's part of the depression here as of late, is I'm starting to panic, like, what the hell?
Yeah, I know.
With everything, if this is, can I work in this environment? Can I accomplish it? Can I get it done? I don't know. And I think that's what's been messing with me. But the fact that I'm aware of that's what's messing with me, and the fact that I'm, cognizant, I can deal with it. It's just how I deal with it. You mentioned you're not drinking as much, before COVID. COVID did one of two things for me. It told me that I was not a compulsive gambler and not an alcoholic, because when the casino shut down and bars shut down, I didn't miss going to the casino. I didn't miss playing Keno, which I love. I love to gamble, but I wasn't jonesing. I wasn't going on online sites to try to gamble. Right. Okay, thank God I'm not a compulsive gambler.
Calling up your bookie, like,
exactly.
Anything I can bet on?
Yes, cricket. How does cricket work? Cricket seems like I could. What's the line? Is there a line?
Give me the under.
And then, I said we were drinking more when everything started.
Right.
But then when I went to Florida to visit my mom, I was barely drinking at all. I mean, I went to the liquor store and got a bottle, just to have there. But, for me to have a fifth of whiskey last more than 5 weeks, that's ridiculous. Who are you?
Wow, right.
Who is this person? So,
yeah.
I can check those things off my list. They're just
I thought
enjoy.
When my wife and I decided we weren't going to drink anymore, because we drank a lot for like the first few weeks of lockdown, and we're like, what are we doing? And then we just stopped, and I didn't miss it. I realized, I guess, I thought I would start shaking or something. I'd be one of those people you had to tie down, and I'd have cold sweats for a week, and then I would wake up and go, I'm cured.
And there have been times where, like, okay, I need to, as soon as I get home, I'm hitting the porch, I'm pouring a bourbon,
Yeah,
but it's not like, because we asked earlier, what's comforting in the solitude. That to nurse a bourbon on the front porch and just kind of unwind is good. But if I would God damn it, I need a drink. I need a drink right now. Yeah. I am shaking. I need, then that would be a problem.
The other thing was I realized I could rationalize why I drank too.
It's good for you.
Yeah, it's good for you. One a day is never going to hurt you, and it's like, hey, I had a pretty good day today. I just picked up a couple new clients. Time to celebrate. Mm-hmm. Or, man, I had a shitty day today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Time for a cocktail. or geez, it's a nice day outside. Let's go. Oh, it's raining. Let's have a cocktail.
No.
Whatever you can rationalize or give yourself a reason to. And I realized I was finding that reason, and it was basically just because I was home. It's like, hey, I'm home. Time for a cocktail. So
rationalizations are like bowel movements, my friend. You need at least one good one every day. Every day.
That reminds me of my joke about attorneys. Attorneys are like adult diapers. They're funny they're great to make fun of until you actually need one, and then they're not that funny.
All right. You probably have a bunch of other questions you didn't even get to, right? Because we were just gabbing.
Yeah,
That's all right.
As we do on Gab Street.
Correct.
Yes,
you got that right. When that huge project comes out for the next chapter,
yes,
where can my audience find it?
Oh, I have no idea because I don't know.
You're still doing the Whiskey Business podcast.
Oh,
right?
Whiskey Business podcast. Yeah, we're still doing that, and
you can find links to other stuff.
I stepped into the late '90s and put out a new website.
Ooh.
Yeah,
oh wow!
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
DinoTripodis.com.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
DinoTripodis.com.
DinoTripodis.com is out there now with everything that, and we're trying to, I still have to put an acting reel on it,
Yeah.
but audio, voice reel is on there, blogs, a link to Whiskey Business and things.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I don't know that I know there's one thing it pisses me off. There's an unfinished book that I spent a year writing a draft of and wrote on it every day, and every day I was committed, and I thought that the same process would go to the rewrite of it. I'd work on it every day, but once again, paralysis by analysis, my friend.
Yeah.
I started
looking for that perfection.
Was that I wrote down what you were thinking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
I wrote down what you were thinking should have been done and out, and published or self-published, whatever the case might be.
Is that the same one you've been working on for
About
the
2
Great
years?
American
No. That's the OK American novel.
The Great American novel is just the OK.
It's just the OK American novel. I was working on the OK
It's
American
Bob
novel.
Kerouac, Jack Kerouac's brother.
2 years later, since 2018,
Yeah.
has the shift from DJing on Sunny 95 been a drastic change for you? How different is your life now, and in what ways?
I don't have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's nice.
Okay. But I sincerely do miss it. You do something for 5 days a week for 24 years, you miss it. And when I say miss it, I don't miss being a morning show guy per se. I miss what I did as a morning show guy, having a fresh canvas every morning to splash whatever was going on the course of any day, whether it was something serious, silly, sad. I miss that connection with people. And to be honest with you, I didn't even realize how much of a connection that there was there. You know, I never worried about ratings. You know, I never worried about how many people were listening. I never knew if we went up or down. We had our ups and downs over the course of the years, where we were on top, in the middle, on the bottom, so forth and so on. Never thought about that. I never worried about how many people were listening. And didn't think that what I did mattered in the big picture things, and we're talking just in Columbus specific. But when I announced that I was leaving and I left, man, that last week I was emotionally, sincerely touched by the outpouring of, I remember when you did, and things that I had forgotten. I mean, over the course of 24 years. I remember one time you pulled over on 315 when my my car was on the side of the road and you pulled over and she had lost her muffler or something in the middle of the road. And she goes, and you actually went out in the middle of 315 and grabbed the muffler when there wasn't any traffic and come back. I don't remember that.
Wow.
But I did remember when she said it, you know, it's stuff like that. Things that you've done with people and for people that I didn't think twice about because it was just, this is what I do, you know. But
yeah, you did a lot of charitable work.
A lot of charitable work, and
raised
still
a lot of money.
Still try millions of dollars for Children's Hospital,
the
SACO, Down Syndrome Association. Yeah, but that was probably the best part of the job, that it gave you the opportunity to do that. You know, whereas just a regular guy, I don't know if I would have been able to just to do those things, you know, in that capacity. So I miss the daily interaction with people. Moving forward, I'd like to find some other way. And the podcast works, but, you know, I wish there was something else I could do on a daily basis. There are no other radio jobs right now, and I don't know if I'd want it to be radio. I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to find some way to connect on a daily basis with the people again. So we'll see. But yeah, that I didn't realize how much you need purpose, you know, and sometimes I struggle with, well, what's my purpose now? You know, what am I, that last chapter that we keep talking about, what is the next thing I'm supposed to be doing? And it baffles me, and it's like, I need to think about this a little bit more. So yeah, that's what's been different.
Especially when you consider that from our perspective, we're at this age where a lot of our peers have already got things figured out, like what they're going to do in their retirement.
Right.
And they've got their whole lives planned out and scheduled, and, you know, they're going to retire and move to a 2-bedroom condo and this, you know, nice weather and golf, and, you know, it's like, well, if that's what you want to do, but yeah, it's
and from a real estate perspective, you know, this is like 2 years ago when I was working at the radio station. No one in my family said beans to me about my house. Mm-hmm. Okay, I live alone. I have a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, nice sized living room for Clintonville house. I've been there for 20 years. No one said beans about my house. Now, when I go to Florida and visit my family, all of a sudden now that I'm not working on a daily, regular basis, in their minds, have you thought about maybe selling the house and downsizing? Like, no? Why? Well, you're all by yourself. It's a lot of house for one person.
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't a lot of house for one person 2 years ago when I was getting up every morning and going someplace? It's interesting how people's perspectives of you change in their minds, and they adapt. Like, you know, he's not working on a regular basis. He should maybe sell that house.
He's strapped for cash.
He should sell that house and maybe move someplace smaller.
Yeah, like your old apartment.
Yeah, my old apartment. Which, you know, now, hell, you know, you get an apartment, you're paying almost as much as you are for a mortgage.
Right, exactly. Which is why you should buy. Contact Jeff Gage at Keller Williams.
Keller Williams. I want to come full circle again and get more.
Speaking of which, how are you doing on time?
Yeah, I'll probably have to take off here pretty soon.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, if we have time for one last kind of open-ended question.
Sure.
Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. What factors in both of your early lives gave you the confidence to use your voices in the way that you have and do now?
What factors?
Your early life?
Move those
or
along?
Or just really any time in your life, I guess. Just what gave you the confidence to do what you do?
Oh, boy, the confidence, because I still sometimes, you know, creative people are also some of the most insecure people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always said that I think a lot of people go up on stage to seek some kind of acceptance. even though you put up this kind of false bravado, but you really want that love and adulation from the audience, or even from your work of, again, whatever it is, whatever your art or
because
craft
you didn't
is.
receive it as a child.
Yeah, that's right. Really cracked open a tough nut here. Yeah, but it's no, but nobody wants to go up and bomb, or
Yet we have.
Yet we have. You're right. You have to be, and even with acting, I mean, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be open, and sometimes you got to take risk, and it's going to fall flat. And but I don't know what from your childhood, I wanting acceptance. I guess I always looked for approval from peers, and maybe not so much my parents. Although I guess I did want that approval too.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, the most nervous I was ever for a show was when my parents came to see me.
Right.
And this was just a small club in Memphis, and they came to see me perform, and I was like, oh geez, my parents are out there. I was freaking out, and I had done thousands of shows prior to that for huge, much larger audiences, and that, for whatever reason, that one really had a profound effect on me. But so I guess you're seeking some kind of acceptance as you're going forward, and you always have, maybe from your youth.
Yeah.
Everybody wants approval, validation.
I would say I had a horrible growing up as a kid. Inferiority complex with my family, that sometimes I think still dwells deep down in there somewhere, and raises that specter of doubt, where we talked about, is this good enough, the paralysis by analysis. I think sometimes at 61 years of age, I think that still haunts me from time to time, but I don't know. I don't know what I've always been a creative person. I think it was, in my 20s, when I was your age, I worked 2 and 3 jobs that I hated. I was a young married guy with a kid at 21 years of age. I put the bread on the table and, did what I had to do. But at some point, it kept ringing in there that you got to do something else. You can't just do this. I remember sitting in the garage at 21. I had a little desk in the garage and the typewriters and so forth. They didn't have a computer then, and I would sit there, and I would, probably one of my most productive years as far as volume was in my early 20s, where I wrote short story after short story after short story and sent them out to get published and get rejected. And then I think it was some airline magazine that published the first thing that I did at some point. But I look back I still have all those typewritten short stories, and I could see why they were rejected. I could see why they were. And yet there's still something there. And what I envy about them is the fact that, wow, you had the
cojones
to sit out there and let your mind go and type. And I'm looking at some of the premises that were involved. Some of them were kind of dark and funny at the same time, but you like the talent's there. It's just not.
And that's the first step to creativity, is to sit down and do it.
Ass and chair.
I mean, it's easy to sit back and go, you know what? I got an idea. I should do that someday. You'll never get around to it unless you actually do it.
Ass in chair, step 1.
Yeah, I've got a notebook at home full of screenplay ideas.
Right.
It's still sitting there from 1994 that I've just never, I have the characters and everything. I just never did anything.
I'll go you one further. Speaking of rummaging through stuff, I came across a spiral notebook, all right?
Yeah.
Of an actual handwritten, sophomore year of high school, handwritten screenplay that in my head, I thought that we were going to make this movie. It was a crime film.
Yeah.
And it's all laid out. It was it could have been at the time. You'll get this reference, but nobody else will. At the time, what I think I was channeling it was like it looked like a 15-minute version of Kojak. With Telly Savalas.
Right.
But I was like, okay, so I was doing this
even then.
Then.
Well, in high school, took my dad's little Super 8 camera, and we were shooting short.
So did we.
Yeah.
So did we. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I always had that imagination of like trying to create something out, just something from nothing. And
Kevin Young and I would play radio with the cassette recorder. We would play records on the record player.
Yeah.
We would play 45s, but we would record ourselves DJing the 45s.
Here's a new hit from Donny Osmond.
Yeah, here you go.
Here's a new group called the Jackson 5.
Kind of underground, obscure.
And now for some easy listening, here's Johnny Mandel with the theme from MASH.
It's getting heavy in here.
Yeah. And I did the morning announcements.
Oh, at school?
At school.
Yeah.
But I did them humorously.
Yeah.
So, that got me out of so much trouble in high school because the principal, I would do like...
I gotta go.
I would do fake announcements, like 2 real announcements and a fake one. Because comedy goes in 3s, Jeff Gage.
That's right.
All right, we're out of here.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for listening this week, Gab Street listeners. We'll catch you next Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. just like every week.